Hi, it's Brad with Smooth Fusion, and this is part 3 in a video series on personalization with Sitefinity 13.1 in HubSpot. And in the first video, we saw how to connect Sitefinity to HubSpot. The second video was about creating a segment inside of Sitefinity and then personalizing some content on the home page based on that segment. And in part 3, we're going to talk about how to configure Sitefinity Insight. So let's jump right into Sitefinity. So when we left off, we had created a personalized version of the home page, and we can see now that the pages tree has a notation here that that page has been personalized. And the next step that we want to do is integrate Sitefinity Insight. Sitefinity Insight is a standalone software as a service that your Sitefinity instance connects to, and then the data is sent back and forth between the two systems. And so to configure Sitefinity Insight, you find that under Administration and Sitefinity Insight. If for some reason that doesn't show up for you, you might check under Modules and Services to make sure that Sitefinity connector, the connector for Sitefinity Insight is there and enabled. And if it's not, then make sure it's there and enabled before you start. So go to Sitefinity Insight, and you're going to be prompted to enter an access key. So this is where you'll need to go to the Insight website. So it's insight.sitefinity.com. And I've got a number of data centers that I've been experimenting with. You may not have any the first time you come. I'm going to go to Administration. And then down here for data centers, I'm going to create a new data center. I'm going to call this one HubSpot Demo. Can always delete it later. So it'll take just a minute to run some back-end processes to get this data center spun up. All right, now that the data center has been created, we can go get the access key for the data center. So I'm going to generate an access key. This is for the HubSpot demo. I'm going to give it access just to the HubSpot demo data center. And here's a key, so I'll copy that. And then I will go back over to Sitefinity and paste the key and hit connect. And now the connection has been made, and I need to set the tracking. So you may have multiple sites, or you may just have one site, but in the HubSpot demo data center, I'm going to track the default site, which is my default instance of Sitefinity here. And so now that I've done that, there's a lot of things that are going to be captured out of the box. A lot of different interactions are just tracked automatically for you when you use Sitefinity Insight. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create some sort of conversion. Now in this video, we're not going to dig a whole bunch into Insight. That'll be covered in future versions, or there's already some videos out there that cover it. But basically, when a user completes some action, that is a conversion. So we might want to do something in our case like track if the user has completed the upgrade form on our website. So if we go back to the pages tree and recall from our personalized version of the home page, what we were doing is we were trying to get people to click on this button for upgrade my site, and that goes to /upgrade as a content page. So what we want to do is we're going to create a page that's an upgrade page with a form on it. And so first what we want to do is go into Content Forms, and we're going to create a new form. And this is going to be an upgrade form. And we're going to drag a couple of text boxes just like we did on a contact form. And so here we'll say this is first, this is last, email. Now we could make this form pretty complicated. I'm going to keep it simple. So if we're talking about Sitefinity upgrades, then there's a few things that we might ask a customer. So maybe, for example, if the site is on web forms, which is an older technology, then it's maybe going to be a little harder to upgrade. Or if it has custom code, or if maybe there's been some, let's say some database changes, something like that. So we could make this as complicated as we need to. We could add another and let them type in something if we want. So that looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and publish this form. And then what we want to make sure that we do here, because we want this data to end up going over to Sitefinity Insight. So in the same way that we map the fields for HubSpot for the contact form, we want on the upgrade form, we want to go to Properties, and we want to send this data to Insight. And we could also send it to HubSpot, but we don't have a corresponding form in HubSpot for this one. So let's set the data mapping. So inside of Sitefinity Insight, we'll map that to first name, we'll map this to last name, and we'll map that to email, and we're not going to do anything for mapping for this last one. So now I've got 3 fields mapped over to Insight. I'm going to save the changes. And while we're here on that contact form, I'm going to go back to it. This is the one we created in the first video. I'm going to go to Properties, and we already have this recording to HubSpot, which is still great. But now that we have Insight connected, I want to save that as well. So I'm going to go back to the Edit Data Mapping, and now these fields are active. Same thing, I'm going to map this to first, last, email, and I don't think there's anywhere to map the comments for now, so I'll click Done. So now either one of those forms should send data over to Sitefinity Insight. The next thing I want to do is create a page to hold the upgrade form that we just created. So I'll go back to the Pages tree and create a page. I'll call the page Upgrade. Use the same main template that I used before. I'll go to our custom hero. Choose background image from our hero images library. We'll give it upgrade as a header. Give it some sort of subheader. Now I want to switch to layout mode so I can drag a container. And then I will add a form widget in the container. And I will select our form for upgrade. And I'll check the widget designer just to make sure there's nothing else we need to do. This one is not going to be sent to HubSpot. There's not a corresponding Insight tab. Since we've mapped those form fields to Insight on the form itself, it should automatically send that data over. Now my styling, default styling here in my resource package is not handling these checkboxes very well, but I'm not going to worry about that for this video. So now I've got an upgrade page, and that upgrade page has my form on it that we can use to drive people to request upgrade services. That looks like it's working. So I'll come back to Insight, and I'm going to create a conversion. So conversions take place when certain events happen. So you can create a conversion based on a visit to a page or a download or registration. I'm going to submit form, and I'm going to match a part of the URL. And our contact page back over here was just /contact. So if it has the word contact in it, part of a URL, that's going to define the conversion. And I'll just call this contact form. And these are optional. We won't go into them right now, but we'll just leave the defaults for that and save this conversion. And then we also want to know if somebody converted through our upgrade form. So I'm going to define another conversion, upgrade form, submit a form, part of the URL, upgrade, and done. Save this conversion. And so what we'll be able to do is once people complete those forms, that data will show up in Sitefinity Insight as a conversion. We'll also be able to see the results of our personalization efforts, and then we'll also be able to see anyone who has converted and they've gone from an anonymous user to a contact, a known user. We'll be able to see their customer journey and watch what they did to convert, and then we can come back and use these tools to start to do some analysis to see what was the effect of our personalization campaign. So the focus of this video really was on how to connect Sitefinity Insight, how to map the form fields. In a future video, we'll talk more about Insight and how to read the data and interpret the data. But for now, you've learned in this video series how to create segments based on a contact property inside of HubSpot, personalize data, and then send the data to Sitefinity Insight as well for additional analysis and tracking. So I hope you found the videos useful and can apply them to your situation. Thanks.